Hi everyone, welcome to ABC Interactive English. I'm Mike.
And I'm Matt.
And it's the beginning of our 3-day story unit for this month. That's right, we're going to be reading a story called Exposure over the next 3 days. That's kind of an interesting title.
That is interesting, that's right. So you might say exposer, but we got it separated here, so it's actually exposer.
Yeah, that's kind of strange. A poser is someone who kind of maybe pretends to be something that they're not. You know, if you have a friend who's kind of acting like he's a really talented athlete and, you know, wears all the cool sports clothes and then you find out they can't actually play basketball, you might say you're kind of a poser.
That's right, but in this case we're talking about an exposer, so we got the X in front, meaning that not anymore.
Right, like an ex-soldier used to be a soldier but is not a soldier anymore. Or if we turned it into one word, an exposer, to expose, is basically to show the truth, maybe to show that someone is lying. If you expose their lies, you say, see, everything they said was not true. I am exposing them, and so maybe I'm the exposer. So maybe some lies are going to be shown, maybe people will be shown to be not the way they are, and it's also kind of a romance, this story, I think.
Yeah, it has some romantic elements in here.
So I think it's going to be pretty interesting. So why don't we get to it? Exposer, or Exposer, Part 1. Sandra Morris and Ben Fox are the two rich kids in our class. They have blue eyes and blonde hair. They always wear expensive new clothes and shoes. In their minds, they look good. They are real posers and don't want to be around kids like me. However, I can do something about that today. All right, so yes, part 1 of Exposer, or Exposer. We're not sure. Let's read the story. It begins, Sandra Morris and Ben Fox are the two rich kids in our class, all right? So we've met a couple of the characters. Was that Sarah Morris and Ben Fox?
Sandra Morris.
Sandra Morris and Ben Fox are the two rich kids in our class. That means basically they come from families with lots of money. We know that because of the adjective rich. If someone is rich, they have lots of money in the bank, they own lots of big companies, they have a big house, they own lots of land, they drive fancy cars and wear Italian and French fashions. They got a lot of money, so they're very rich.
That's right, and that's the opposite of someone being maybe poor.
Like me.
So if someone doesn't have money,
like
you might use the adjective poor instead. The article continues, they have blue eyes and blonde hair.
Wow.
They always wear expensive new clothes and shoes.
Wow.
As you said, they're rich.
They're rich.
So they've got the money to get those new clothes and shoes.
Right, and the blonde hair, the blue eyes,
Blonde hair.
They sound pretty amazing.
That's right. So, of course, our next word is blonde, and it's an adjective, and neither of us have blonde hair here. So blonde hair being yellowish or golden hair. And when you see someone with blonde hair and blue eyes, usually means they're very pale-skinned, usually.
Sometimes, yeah.
Well, or you can get those blue contacts as well. But,
that's very true.
But blonde hair and blue eyes, I think they stand out. They're very, but the blonde hair always stands out in the crowd, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those funny words. We would say black hair, brown hair, red hair. But yeah, you don't usually say yellow. You might say golden hair, but really blonde is the word that we use for anything kind of white, yellowish, that very light shade of hair. I had blonde hair when I was like 4.
Oh, okay.
And then it got darker and darker and darker.
Now it's getting lighter again.
Yeah, now it's turning white.
Mine too.
How lucky I am. Anyway, so yeah, think of Scarlett Johansson, right? She's an actress with blonde hair. Everyone would know her from the Marvel movies. And we also had this word expensive. Well, if you want to hire Scarlett Johansson to be in your movie, it will cost you a lot of money. She's a very famous star, and she has blonde hair. So obviously getting her to be in your movie would be expensive. In other words, it would cost you a lot of money. We can talk about people being expensive. if you want to hire someone to do a special job. And of course, things. When we talk about things that cost you a lot of money, those things are expensive. This would be the opposite of something cheap. Something cheap will cost you very little money. Expensive, well, you're going to have to save your money because it costs a lot. All right, so these kids are rich, they're good looking, they're popular, they're stylish. Ooh, we hate them. No.
Anyway, let's see what we think of them. So the story continues. In their minds, they look good.
Okay.
They are real posers and don't want to be around kids like me. Not very nice.
Oh.
However, I can do something about that today.
Someone has a bit of a plan here. That's very unusual. Okay, but anyways, it's not very nice being around these people for some of the other students. When you're around someone, you're in the area, you're kind of nearby. All right, we can use this for places. In Taiwan, there is always a 7-Eleven around you somewhere. You could probably go to the top of the tallest mountain in Taiwan and still find a 7-Eleven because they're always around. If you spend time with your friends, they're probably people that you like to be around, right? Like to be near them, do things with them. Even if you're not with them in one place, you're chatting with them, you're talking with them, you're doing things close to them. And of course, you'll spend a lot of your time maybe on the weekend just being around your house. That's the area that you're kind of staying in.
So in this story, the writer said that these kids don't want to be around him or her. We don't actually know yet, do we?
Well, yeah, that's true. Like, we're not quite sure about
So they don't want to be around, and we don't know why. Maybe...
Not nice to be with these people. Maybe they make you feel not so good, but the person in the story, it sounds like they have a bit of a plan to maybe get back at these two popular rich kids in their school. We're not quite sure what's going on, but that's okay. It's just the first part of the first day of our story. We'll be back with more after the break.
Boffin brought his new machine to school. It can tell between lies and the truth. Sandra agreed to try it. So Boffin and I are going to ask her some very embarrassing questions.
All right, so our story has started. We've met a few characters. We know that the writer of the story doesn't like the other two characters, right? Because they're rich and good looking and popular and have cool clothes. And at school, this really bothers the writer of the story. But it sounds like he's got a plan to kind of get some revenge or something, do something kind of mean to these kids who he doesn't like very much. And it sounds like those kids aren't really very nice either.
Sounds like, yeah. They don't want to be around kids like...
That's right. So, you know, it sounds like people aren't getting along here for some reason. Then we meet another new character in this part. It says, Boffin brought his new machine to school. So Boffin is the newest character, a fourth character. Sounds like Boffin is kind of a student scientist of some kind, maybe even an inventor, because he has a new machine. So Boffin brought this new machine to school. What is this machine? Well, it sounds pretty special. It says it can tell between lies and the truth. It's a lie detector. You've probably seen this in, police movies, and they might attach something and measure your breathing and your heart, and they ask you questions. And in the story, in the movies especially, these machines are really good at seeing if you're telling the truth or you're lying. I think in real life these machines aren't that good, but it's kind of cool in a movie when you see these machines with their lines and stuff telling truth.
Right. I think it works best for the story if we believe that this machine works all the time.
For sure, for sure. It would be good to have a machine like that.
That's right, and that's another vocabulary word, which is machine, and machine is a noun. A machine is a device that usually does a physical task. So one example of a machine is a coffee machine. Okay. So this is something that makes coffee for you. And I use a coffee machine every day. Machines can be small things like that, or it can be something very large, even like you might say an airplane is a kind of machine.
Absolutely.
So an airplane flies you to countries around the world.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny word because some things you might think, Is a computer a machine? Kind of, but I'm not sure. Machines also often have moving parts inside them, so I'm not sure if I would say like a smartphone is a machine. But basically it's something that has moving parts. It often needs power to actually work. And it's not something really simple. Like you wouldn't say a hammer or a pencil is a machine. Those are tools, but machines will be a little more complicated than that. All right, let's get back to the article, find out what Boffin's machine is going to actually do.
Sandra agreed to try it.
She's one of the unpopular girls, right?
She's one of the rich.
The rich girl, yeah, okay.
So, Boffin and I are going to ask her some very embarrassing questions.
Oh, okay. I can see what's going to happen here. They're going to ask the embarrassing questions, but the machine will be able to tell whether what Sandra's saying is true or false, whether her answers are true or false. And to get an answer, you often have to ask a question, right? When I ask you something, I have a question, I need information, I'm looking for things that I don't know, or I want to get your help. So I might say, what time is it? Or where are you going? Or can you recommend a good restaurant? Anything that has a question mark at the end is a question. And when you say a question, we actually often, would be better to use this verb, you ask a question. You're basically looking for information.
Yes, and in this case, they're not asking just any questions, they're asking embarrassing questions. So embarrassing means might make you feel a bit of shame or make your cheeks turn red when you hear about it. So maybe if you go up to your teacher and you accidentally call your teacher mom, you might find that's very embarrassing.
Well, when the teacher says, have a good weekend, and you say, I love you. Wait, that's okay to your mom, but not your teacher.
That would
your face gets hot and turns red.
embarrassing.
So yeah, you do something really silly in public where people can look at you and probably laugh at what you just did. All right, that's a bad situation, but maybe getting your enemy or someone you don't like into that situation might actually be kind of fun. We're going to find out so much more about this tomorrow and on the third day too, but you're going to have to come back for the middle of the story tomorrow when I'm sure things will be getting very interesting, so you won't want to miss it. We'll see you then, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Sandra Morris and Ben Fox are the two rich kids in our class. They have blue eyes and blonde hair. They always wear expensive new clothes and shoes. In their minds, they look good. They are real posers and don't want to be around kids like me. However, I can do something about that today. Boffin brought his new machine to school. It can tell between lies and the truth. Sandra agreed to try it. So, Boffin and I are going to ask her some very embarrassing questions.
Hello, I'm Tina. 我们来看一下这一课的重点单字。第一个 rich 形容词，富有的。Lily got married to a rich man yesterday. Lily 昨天嫁给一个有钱人。下一个单字 around 介系词，在周围。Nina likes to be around children. She wants to be an elementary school teacher. Nina 喜欢跟孩子们待在一起，她想要成为一名国小老师。Elementary 是形容词，基础的，所以 elementary school 就是国小。下一个单字 machine 名词，机器。The machine made a loud noise just now. 这台机器刚刚发出一个很大的噪音。最后一个单字 ask 动词，询问。The boy asked the teacher many questions after class. 下课后，那位男孩问了老师好多问题。接着我们来看重点文法。第一个 ，They look good， 他们外表出众。Good 在课文中指的是外表出众的，面貌姣好的。Look 在这里是连缀动词，看起来，它的后面要接形容词。我们来看看下面这个例句 ：You look good in that costume。下一个文法 ，Tell between lies and the truth， 分辨谎言与实话。Tell 在这里的意思是分辨、辨别，它的三态是 tell, told, told。Lie 是可数名词，表示谎言、谎话。 truth 指的是真相、事实。当这个意思来解释时，习惯在前面加定冠词 the truth。我们来看看下面这个例句。The detective is good at telling between lies and the truth. 那名侦探很擅长分辨谎言与实话。Detective 就是侦探。以上就是这一课的重点单字跟文法，我们下一课再见喽，拜拜。
Hi, I'm Toi.
I'm Steven.
And today we're playing, what's this?
Word drop.
Word drop, yes. It's called Word Drop. And so we each have 3 cards that we have never seen before. They have words that we have to work into this conversation as casually and as naturally as possible. So would you like to start the convo?
Sure, I'll do that.
Okay.
So I've always been a very curious person. I'm somebody who I just always want to know what's going on. I want to know why that is blue and why that person is the way that they are. Why do my clothes feel like this? I'm just always looking things up on Google. And one thing that people know about me is I always love to ask questions, just asking all the time.
Well, I mean, that's how you learn about things. That's how you grow and learn about the world around you, the people around you. So asking questions is always great. Sometimes people think it's like you're dumb if you have to ask a question in class, like you're not the smartest. But one thing I learned growing up is that asking the right questions help you learn more, progress, figure out the process, And so one of the things that I've learned too is that rich people really have learned how to ask the right questions and how to figure out their path.
That's true. I feel like a lot of people who are wealthy, they got to that point. A lot of them is because they have parents that are rich, but some people get rich because they do ask the right questions or they keep asking questions. And one of the things that I'm usually curious about, like social issues, but one of the things I'm always really curious about but have no concept about is technology, like machines. I just don't get how they work.
About machines?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, technology is quite complicated, I'll say, because one, there's so many different types and they have different purposes. And for me, I took a computer science class when I was in college and was completely terrible at it. I mean, I'm good at learning languages, but terrible with computer language. So when I'm around computer science, it's hard for me to understand that.
Oh, I totally understand. And even though I'm curious and I always ask questions and I do go to Google to look up these answers, sometimes it's really hard to tell between lies and the truth. You have to be careful when you're online. You can't just take everything face value and be like, it's true. It could be a lie. I just can't tell anymore.
It's really frustrating. There's a lot of fake news. And so it's something that may seem like the truth looks like it's very false. Like it looks fake. But it's hard to tell the difference. Like, how are we ever supposed to know? I mean, we're supposed to fact check, right?
Yeah, why most people don't.
See you next time!